In order to differentiate instruction, teachers must first provide a formative assessment that shows where students are currently performing. Schoology's assessments provide for a way for us to get that valuable formative data with some pretty non-traditional question types that can stretch a student's brains in ways that traditional multiple choice quizzes can't always do. To start building an assessment, we'll go into our course and click Add Materials, Add Assessment. We are required to give it a name and a grading category. But these other areas we can leave blank. We'll hit Create, which brings us to the settings for the assessment. There are many great features here that we can set up for our assessments. The one area that we need to change, though, is down under Student Settings. We need to change it from Allow students to view results after an attempt from No to Yes, so that students can see how they performed on the assessment. We'll hit Save. Once we've hit Save, we have this Add Questions button that appears, and we'll go ahead and press that. In order to get formative feedback, we'll need to use objective question types that auto-grade, which means that we will not be able to use the short answer or essay question type. For the purposes of this video, I'll be focusing only on the label image question type, which is my favorite of the advanced question types available in Schoology assessments. The same strategy that we're talking about here can be used, though, with the other advanced question types, which include fill in the blank dropdown, fill in the blank drag and drop, highlight hotspot, highlight image, highlight text, number line, and chart. If you would like to learn about multiple choice, true, false, matching, ordering, and fill in the blank, check out my video on Schoology's test quiz feature, since test quiz has all of these question types available. For our label image question, the first thing that we'll do under the question setup is type in directions for our students and then upload an image that we have saved to our computer. So up here, I'll type in label the docking station and its cables. And then I'll hit this upload image, I'll hit this plus sign, and I will find the image that I want to use. I can upload either PNG or JPEG files. However, what I have found is that PNG files tend to be too large for Schoology. This is 1.44 megabytes, whereas I need 512 kilobytes. So I'll try again. And what I can do is if I have a PNG file, I can open it up in an application like Preview. I can do a file export, and I can change it from a PNG to a JPEG, which will lower the file size. Now I can see that my file size is 207 kilobytes, which is within Schoology's range, but I could also lower it even more using this drag if I needed to. So now when I go into Schoology and I hit the plus sign, I'm going to look for my version of the file that is a JPEG, and I can see over here in my display that this one's the JPEG. I'll go ahead and open it. Now I'll scroll all the way down and I'll hit OK. So now I have my image loaded in. To create areas for my students to label, I'll hit this plus response box button, which creates these little boxes that I can drag to wherever they need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and move these everywhere that I would want a student to label. And notice that each of my response boxes have numbers, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If I continue scrolling down, I'll hit this plus option and I will type in the possible responses. Now if I continue scrolling, all of Schoology's assessments, the last section is where you essentially create your answer key. So now I'm going to drag these to where they actually belong so that it's correctly labeled. And notice how all of those kind of were in a neat order. I kind of had them listed in the same order that they would need to label them. So I'm going to scoot these around so that they're not in the same order. Docking station's now going to be the 5th one. Let's see, USB cable, that's fine. All right, so now just by doing that, I've scrambled them up a little bit so that students won't have such an easy go of things. Down under scoring type, I want to select partial match. And what partial match will do is it will give students partial credit even if they don't get everything labeled correctly. So long as they have some of them labeled correctly, they will get partial credit. So I'll go ahead and hit save. Now my students can go ahead and take this assessment. Unfortunately, the assessments still take a minute or two to grade and are not as instantaneous as what we're used to with test quiz. Schoology is still working on that, among other features and functionalities. When my students get their results and when I'm able to see their results, I can immediately group them and tell them what to do next. Let's imagine I created a 5-question assessment. I can say that if you scored a 1 or a 2, move to group A over here. If you scored a 3 or a 4, move to group B. If you scored a 5, move to group C. My people in group C might work on something that gives them some extra challenge. Maybe it's another quiz, but with harder questions. Maybe I have them make a video explaining the concept to students that don't understand, something that's going to give them a little extra push. My people in group B might get some additional practice at the same level. My people in group A, meanwhile, are going to have to come join me for a mini lesson where I can work with them in a small group and really address their issues and misunderstandings. I can make all of these differentiation decisions on the spot rather than having to wait for the next day's class or rather than having to wait until I've finished a ton of grading. This is the beauty of technology for differentiation.